Hello and welcome to another episode of The Machine is the Message. I'm one of your hosts with wild facial hair, Alan Smith, another host here with wild facial hair.
Hello, I'm Patrick Keenan. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about three things. One is management tools for AIs. So this is like, we've been talking about this for a while, right? That we're all becoming managers. And so there is management technology for managers to think about how to work with other people. Now we need to think about how to work with AIs. So I'm going to bring a couple tools from leadership to help us potentially see how they apply to lead with AI. Pat, you wanted to talk about how we can use how we're going to use computers now that computers can use computers.
Yeah, I think it's a whole new world. We're using, text English, we're using voice, but I think I'm not thinking enough about the ergonomics of what that looks like. We have these metaphors from the 70s of being at a desk with a keyboard, which is like a typewriter, and a monitor, which is like a drafting table, and a mouse, which is like, I don't know what that's like. But, we have these older metaphors, and I think they are limiting our thinking. And so and a good place to start is how do we want to interact? We're having, this video call and I'm talking to you on a monitor. Is this how we want to do it? We have opened up the floodgates of possibilities, and I don't actually know how I want to work. Maybe I want to work walking around. Maybe I want to work around a table. Maybe I want to work at a whiteboard. I'm not really sure, but at all those places now, I have a buddy who's at the command line and is ready to go. So it's different. It's different.
Well, and then we got to talk about news. What's been going on? If you're listening to this late, don't worry about the news part. It's mostly going to be philosophical reflection on what that news means to us as humans in this, new technological world where everything's going pretty quick. And, Pat, you were saying you kind of need to be unemployed to keep up. And the people who are keeping up are the most employable at this point, it's seemingly. So a little bit of a paradox there.
Yeah. Should we jump into links?
Let's do it, man. What's going on in the world?
Okay. We're going to do a speed run. And as usual, these are going to be in the show notes. So I will share this Chrome tab.
And as usual, I'm going to try to slow us down on every link and talk about it forever. So, just give me a check.
Cool. So this is the first one. And this is Dia. And this is Dia Browser, which was previously Arc Browser. So they're kind of just a design team that keeps iterating on, how should the browser work. But in their latest video, it's great. It starts for 10 minutes of just Charlie working at a cafe, and then slowly zooms in. And then he's like, oh, hi, I didn't see you there. So it's just a great demo, very Mr. Rogers. And they kind of go through how the tabs of the future will have background processes, and there'll be more status, I'm working on something, I'm getting back to you, how you use a sidebar to have these conversations, how you basically create websites in your browser rather than just consume them. And it feels that was the original Netscape vision as well. It came with an editor. Just interesting to see that these tools are being everybody's looking for the right framing, and everything that you're working on feels like the right framing. So in this case, they're building a browser, and it feels like the right place to put an OpenClaw as an example.
Wild. So how much of the building websites is just deep research reports? What are the use cases for when you would want a browser to build you a website?
So in this, he is able to look at his Slack messages and say we're working on this new tab layout. What's the feedback from users? What do we think internally? What's the usage stats on it? Put it into a report, and then basically get an idea of what to work on. And then he goes through making his own to-do app in the browser and making it more fun.
Is it efficient to build your own to-dos app before you go to work?
Every day you gotta build a new to-do list.
Okay, cool. Right? I'm looking forward to this new productivity future.
Yeah. Don't sleep on it. I don't know. I think it's it's kind of the demo we're seeing from everybody, which is hey, we can just rebuild everything. And in this case, they're a browser, so they're putting in the browser.
The last thing I'll say on that is I get the problem it's solving in terms of, let's say you're building an agent of some sort, or you basically have stuff you want to output somewhere, and it doesn't really fit a chat metaphor. So it's not going to go to Telegram or Slack necessarily, but what's it going to do? Make a file somewhere? The idea that it can make a web page, or just throwing things to the browser on URLs, like kind of makes sense. Like that's cool. Like right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool for a number of reasons. I think you're right. It is the place like Claude makes web pages. This is kind of what it does, but it's also like the place where you spend a lot of your time. Like I have so many tabs, and so to be able to like think about those tabs as stuff that I can generate, feels like it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Dope. All right.
So in other news, this is Wabi. Is it called Wabi? And it's kind of an app maker as well. I just wanted to show it because they're like releasing. What they do is they bundle up existing kind of native technology and make it into these like power ups, and you can use these things to make another app. So it's something to check out. And again, it's like a different take on where we're going to work. In this case, they're like, well, you're just going to make an app, and you're going to have this app of apps. So you might want to try that out.
It's apps all the way down.
It's apps all the way down. Yeah.
What is that thing with the
beautiful glass?
The universe lives on a. What's the thing with the old lady? And she's talking about how she's telling like Carl Sagan or something. Like, no, you've got it wrong. The world is sitting on a turtle's back, and it's riding on the turtle's back. And he's like, well, what is the turtle on? She's like, my dear, it's turtles all the way down.
That's right. That's right. What a silly question. Yeah. So, and then the other thread on UI is this, which is Stitch. So it's from Google. And I thought it's an interesting like example. So here you can just say like design is generate a GitHub landing page for blah, blah, blah. So like, it's weird to be able to put that as a call to an API to generate you a design. And then you can get like that as HTML or as an image.
Well, it's kind of just like you're just like asking someone, right? And like they're just doing it now. Like they're so you can be so soft in your asks in a way. And this is a very actually structured ask, comparatively. But the idea that you can just ask and you're going to get it feels like kind of what's behind all this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that it can fit into a program. Like this is like one task in a bigger project. There's another thing on UI. I just thought this was like really nice kind of UI design. Like it's just so cool to like, set interactive little widgets inside of text paragraphs.
Dude, this is like Edward Tufte Spark lines. 100%.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
The original Spark lines was Edward Tufte had this vision of what if you could put essentially a small piece of information into a paragraph of text that you read like a word, right? And that's exactly what this is. We kind of got it with emojis, but these are little baby widgets. It's dope.
Yeah. I love the Sparklines reference because it does feel like this is kind of like in some ways it's familiar. It's like, oh, I get that. And in other ways you're like, wow, that's crazy that all that functionality is embedded in here. And then this is from Spielwork, which is like another example of an app that has many apps inside of it. It's more focused on games, but just like these beautiful editing suites for apps. Okay, so a couple interesting like lower level LLM things. This one, it's a novel approach. I don't fully understand the math behind it, but they've basically embedded a computer into the weights of the model. Traditionally, like you have to go out to a tool to do math. But in this case, I think they've kind of maxed out certain weights and hand curated it so that it can do math in the same way a computer could do math. And it like increases the speed by a lot. But what it assures for math solutions is that they're not probabilistic. So This is just like an interesting thing to look at.
I think the idea of like probabilistic answers are so interesting in this type of work. I was working with a friend the other day, and we were talking about how like back in the day he's an old guy, so let's just get that out of the way. He was talking about how he wrote up a paper on his computer for the first time, like early word processor days, right? And he had saved a copy of it, printed it out, he brought it into class, submitted it, and the teacher went to him the next day. She's like, how come you didn't submit your thing? And he's like, I did submit it. And they're like, we didn't get one from you. He's like, no problem. I'll just go print it out and bring it right back. Like it's done. You're like, you just told me this now. I'll just go print it and bring it right back. There's no time for me to write this paper. So he wasn't getting cheated. He comes in, gives her the paper. The next day, this other girl in class is now in a bunch of trouble. She had taken his paper torn the cover sheet off and put on a cover sheet with her name under the expectation that he would have to rewrite it. And it was going to be different because humans don't write the same thing each time. So he wouldn't have been able to rewrite the same essay the same way. But since he had just saved the file, he just reprinted it. But that was brand new. Like nobody even thought that was possible. It wasn't like common knowledge back then. And so the idea that, if you ask me to write the same essay twice, I would write it different, right? Like the idea of probabilistic like outputs from AI, I still think is the weirdest thing. And that there is no right answer. There's only like what it came up with at the time based on like recent inputs and kind of like how it's feeling, except for math. And it's like, you got to get the math right. So it's good that they figured it out.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I mean, it is the power of it. And it's also because it can deal with fuzzy input, but it's also like, is it reliable? And I think engineers get really pissed off if there's not a reliable output to a function. So,
and I love that this also like, the haters, like the AI haters who are like, yeah, well, it still can't do math, right? And stuff like that. So I like seeing this type of progress on the attack vectors that have been there for a long time, but the rest of us knew were kind of coming down over time. So yeah, go AI crew.
Go AI crew. And like, just, it keeps going. Like, I don't know if I have a link for it, but have you heard of auto research?
No.
So what's happened is, I'll make a new link for this. So Karpathy kind of did this, here, what's here, 5 minutes ago, Karpathy. Or no, sorry, it was Ilya. Anyway, so here we go. This is, what he did is it's Andre Karpathy, sorry. So what he did is he basically made this approach where you take a bite-sized problem and then like overnight you get the LLM to just like run through it, generate like 50 different solutions, do it again over hours. And you just kind of measure like the effectiveness of something. And so it does all these experiments, it comes up with the experiments, and then it finds the improvements, keeps the improvements, and then runs them again. And so like after one night, he drove efficiency like by 50% or something. And so this has now been applied to a number of libraries. I think Toby from Shopify did this to his like a rendering library and improved. And these are libraries that have been used for like, a decade. So we thought we had all the gains, and like one night of this kind of auto research approach has just driven efficiency way more. So I think like,
how does it do it? Like that's crazy. Like,
well, I mean, yeah. So the traditional thought of research is like, okay, cool. Like a researcher comes up with a question, and then we can go about like figuring out different ways to experiment against it. This is it just goes up a level and it says like, actually the LLM should come up with like the idea for the experiment. That's the essence of it.
Yeah, whatever we were doing, it's just now have the LLM do it.
Yeah, and then it can run through them a lot faster and like build out what the results are and then just put it in the next process. So like this and this numbers thing feel like new gains that if you were a skeptic, you would be like, oh, well, there is a limit, there's a plateau, but it's just like, whoa, this is crazy. They keep finding these nuggets. They're just like, it's like panning for gold in the 1849 in California, it's like, it just comes out of the ground.
Wild.
So that's auto research. On the technical bit as well, now OpenClaw can use your browser. So this is a really cool thing, which is just, it was hard to get a computer to use your browser, and now it does it through a MCP connection. So it's just like faster, better, stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just,
I like the example there of the, what is it? Like, what is it using? With MCP ZOM maker, and it's like a little pizza.
I guess, yeah, the user wants a certain pizza, it's able to make the pizza. The masters of use cases, Google masters.
Oh, it's because they posted on March 14th is Pi Day.
Got it. Okay, yes. Happy to Pi Day to everyone. Okay, and then in other places of interesting stuff left on the table is, I don't know if you heard about this, but like there's a guy in Australia who cured his dog of cancer. Did you hear about this?
What?
So
I should have heard about it.
He he's looking into it. He's like, my dog's got cancer. This sucks. And chatting with ChatGPT, like, what can I do with this? And he's a tech guy. So it turns out you can sequence somebody's DNA, and then you can bring it to a lab and identify like the mutated lines of DNA. And then you can create a vaccine that like basically reconstitutes the DNA, like modifies the DNA, through these injections. And so he was able to just like work with the local university, sequence it, get the vaccine, inject it into his dog, and now his dog doesn't have cancer anymore. So like, what does that mean? And so I think
Seriously.
the controversy is like academics being like, dude, this is easy. Like we could totally have done this before. This is not new news. And you're like, well, wait a second. Why is this not new news? You're telling me we could have cured cancer before? And so the whole pushback is, well, yeah, we could, but you can't legally opt into this in many countries, and no commercialized treatment for this could exist because of the trials. Like you have to do human trials. So it's kind of a thing where like, yeah, we could do this in rats for years, but obviously we have to go through these years of human trials, which to me, there's this parallel with OpenClaw, right? So everybody knew you could do computer use. In fact, like Claude and OpenAI, they made sure that you weren't allowed to do that. That's why you have to like dangerously set permissions when you open it up. They know that you can do computer use, but nobody wants to shoulder the liability of that solution. And I think there's this interesting parallel here, which is like nobody wants to shoulder the liability of you injecting some cancer vaccine that reconstitutes your DNA. But on the same time, it can cure cancer. So we're at this really interesting impasse.
I think, especially like in this case, right? Like it's different where, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not that different in terms of gains. Well, okay, let me just couch this for a second. On one side, you're talking about getting a computer to use your computer so that you can use computers faster and do more computer stuff. On the other side, you're gonna die. And therefore, you know, what risks are you willing to take? And so on one side, we're putting out all these, you know, billions of agents into the world and they don't have great guardrails yet. On the other side, this person's kind of looking for anything they can get. This is why people are signing up for the clinical trials in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. And if the idea is you're saying, well, I'm going to use my own agent and I'm kind of like signing off on this to do it myself. Like we see this on the edges of essentially like non-fundable healthcare. So for example, the peptide craze right now, right? Mm-hmm. Peptides are just essentially like a string of nutrients that are macronutrients. And I'm getting this all wrong, but it exists in your body already. So you can't patent it. So you can't pay for a multi-million-dollar trial if you're not going to get something on the other end of it. Therefore, these things never go through trial. Therefore, they'll never be like exactly, I guess, what is it, like certified or approved for human use, right? Yet people don't care. They're like, let's go for it anyway. So you got, you know, bodybuilders and anybody who's like, you know, just interested in biohacking have been using peptides for ages. Like BPC 157 and TB 500 can pretty much heal, like anecdotally, like you tear a muscle in your shoulder, something that would probably take 10 or 15 years to heal poorly, you can get it healed in like 6 months. People with back pain forever take this stuff, and it essentially tells your body's natural healing to just turn on wherever something's broken. Nobody really knows how it works, but it works. And so in this case, like if people want to do it, they're going to be doing it, right? Like you can't tell me somebody with cancer didn't see this and start thinking about how they were going to try and do it for themselves.
Oh yeah. But I think I think a lot of people, myself included, I haven't done research on cancer or anything, but I didn't know you could do that. And I was just reading through the comments, people were like, what? You can do this? And then like academics being like, obviously you can do this. It's just not ethical. So I think that same conversation is happening in AI. And it's not the same because it's like life and death with cancer. With computers, it's kind of like hacked or not hacked is the security concern. But for some, that might have a life and death consequence. And the thought experiment I would put through here is like, imagine somebody who just got OpenClaw and they don't really understand security and they don't understand cancer. And they say, hey, OpenClaw, I just got cancer. Help me out. And it's able to do what this guy did. He's like a tech boss. So he knows how to do all this stuff and navigate it. And it's able to do what the university did, which is like sequence the peptide or whatever, or sequence the vaccine and like the DNA and the vaccine to it. And so like that person is actually prevented from doing those things, not technically, but I guess bureaucratically or like legislatively or
regulatory, man. It's just
regulatory, which is interesting.
Nanny states again.
I mean, I'm not saying everybody should go around sequencing DNA. There's definitely downsides to that, but it is interesting that both of these things are not encountering technical limitations.
There's probably like a million wrong ways to use this too. I don't know if you've seen their like what happens the day after the singularity doomer videos and stuff, and they talk about how like, oh yeah, of course we're all already infected with the virus that was sequenced by AI, and it's just going to like switch it on and hold a gun to our head at some point in time, saying, "Hey, we're going to kill you otherwise," whatever. I'm sure there is very strange directions this could go beyond, the altruistic medical case that we have here.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
All right, what's next? What else is going on?
Let's go.
Curing cancer, boring. Let's get
boring. Let's talk about 3D printing. So there's this thing called Blueprint AM. And this is just like an example of what this guy printed, but it's a prompt-based 3D design tool. And not only is it 3D design, but like you actually get a printable body and then like how it works electronically. So
sick.
Yeah, it's just like the distance from concept to print is much smaller, getting much smaller.
Amazing.
So that's exciting. And then speaking of physical things and atoms, I don't know if you saw Travis's latest thing. It's basically this big manifesto on like how he wants to bring digitization to basically all atoms. And of course, it's divided opinions on what this means, but he's basically making robots for like mining and industry, autonomous robots for mining and industry, which I think is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Is this a grift somehow? Like, do we trust Travis? Where's this going to go wrong?
I guess if it doesn't work, then it's a grift.
Or if there's feels like the completely out of control autonomous robots,
I see.
Like crawling all over planet Earth and taking something over. What could go wrong?
Smashing stuff up. Yeah, that could happen.
Okay.
More likely, it just doesn't work. I mean, this is the nature of startups. But it feels ambitious, and so there's like a nice ambition to it. Something to check out. And then I have a bunch of Toronto things. So one is Pi Day was this weekend, and there was like a cool Pi brunch event sponsored, I think, by Modem and Sentry. And it was just like a good lunch and learn about the thing that powers OpenClaw, which is called Pi. I didn't know that. So it's like a agentic command line thing. We're not in the Toronto framing anymore. Okay. Another thing is Toronto Tech Week is announced May 27th. Get tickets now. Yeah, maybe we do an event. That'd be fun.
They got the old streetcar on it too.
Yeah, that's right. A clinker. And then this is not Toronto, but this is like just on the hardware end. These things just keep getting smaller and more powerful. So this is OpenClaw running on a tiny ESP with a screen, which is nuts. I mean, that's crazy, right?
That is crazy. So that's a whole little kind of like Genius Baby agent computer in there that was like,
it's cloud-based.
If we compare that to a Mac Mini, it's more of the fact that it costs $20 than it's small. It's like we stripped out everything you don't need to run this type of computer. This is kind of like the cheapest you could possibly run it as of today.
Totally. Yeah, and all like the Mac Mini craze is about the RAM. So like you can just hold much more memory. But it's still using codecs or it's still using some model to drive OpenClaw. So in this case, it's still using the cloud to drive the LLM, but they've shrunk the code base significantly. And it's super cheap. Yeah,
awesome.
Another one on Toronto is solveto.ca. This guy made this like map where you can drop issues that you've got. So I just wanted to plug that. I always appreciate some vibe coding.
Complaint box for the whole city? Is that what we got?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Solve Toronto.
So what are people complaining about?
Well, we should check out the map.
Solveto.ca.
Let's go here. Street service crack.
Okay.
And I think the point is like it's really simple to report something.
Reporting potholes. It looks like all potholes so far. People complaining about potholes.
Yeah. Broken.
Damage, displaced concrete.
Illegal personal items. Oof. Garbage. Road damage. What's this blue one?
Illegal personal items probably means like needles.
Yeah. Like a dangling, dangerous electricity. Nice little project. I haven't used it to report anything, but I think the more we have of this stuff, the better. And then the last one is just a plug for an article that says Canada is not just a country, it's a civilization. I'm not sure I agree with all the things in this article, but I think it's like, I think there is a question in Canada. Should we merge with another economic union? Should we go out on our own? If we do that, how are we going to do it? And what is holding us together? So I like the notion of thinking big about Canada.
Well, that's
all
the
the links.
kind of Mark Carney Davos, right? Of the middle powers. We gotta connect and screw the big guys.
That's right. Let's band together. That's all links,
man. Hey, what was the link to the Motorola thing? Remember the Motorola thing I sent you, like that new wearable?
Yeah.
That kind of blew me away. I was just like, I'm excited by that. And I can't wait for the new string of wearables to come out. Like whatever they're cooking up with Johnny Ive, like I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me pull it up.
So that's not Motorola. Like obviously, like I can't remember the name of Johnny Ive's, new company. And they got bought by OpenAI and they're making
IO.
some sort of thing. Yeah, IO. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then these guys, it's like this little pendant basically, or like a necklace that you wear. Seemingly. And, there is a good take here that people are, maybe not everybody's going to want to wear glasses. And so what is the next best wearable? And maybe it's a pendant, or that's what Motorola is, trying on. So it's part of, one of the many experiments in the space. So the guess is that it probably just, take smart glasses and throw it into a pendant. And that's what, we've got here. That's kind of my guess. It looks a little cheap. Like it's on like a dog chain and they're trying to make it like look good. It's like not a dog chain, but dog tags, like,
dog tag,
like, metal thing. It's like, I don't know, guys. You're trying to make it look like it's like a nice necklace on, a bodice here, but not quite.
I'm sure they spared no expense. But yeah, fashion is a hard nut to crack.
That's what makes wearables tough. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about because it's clear that the form factor of sitting at a screen with a keyboard is not the future. But what do you think about the wearable versus the room? And I think about this in terms of conference rooms. You walk into a conference room, it's all set up to do the conference thing. You can point the camera at the whiteboard. Will that be where the intelligence is located, or will it be on this thing that I carry around? Because then everybody's kind of taking meeting notes on their own wearable and, snapping photos. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I think of that Black Mirror episode where everybody had a thing in their contact and they were just recording everything all the time. But then when you replayed it, it wasn't you're watching it on a browser window or searching through results. It was you were remembering it, it has a neural link implant or whatever. And so first from the wearables, recording everything side of thing, I love that dystopian future. That's super messed up. And there's a lot of weird use cases on it. So I liked it. The second, I don't know, man. I feel the whole meeting structure has just changed in general because the weird thing is there's someone who's smarter than us in every meeting and it's still a little awkward to pull them up. You know what I mean? There's ChatGPT and it's okay, are we going to ChatGPT this now, guys, or later? Are we going to use the AIs to figure this out for us right now, or are we going to wait? And I think there's still a kind of well, let's talk about it some more and let's figure it out, guys. Or it's okay. And the current form factor of the AIs is it's a browser window and you get to it through a computer, and that's a little awkward. I think when we can add that person or thing or whatever we want to call it, persona, into the room in a more natural way where, we can just start asking and being okay, could we get 5 different ideas of what this could look like? Or, hey, what are the different modules that we could add into this thing based on what the competition's doing? And then it can just list them off for us. And we'd be oh yeah, cool. What do you think? You want this one or that one? This one totally makes sense based on my experience. Hey, chat, does that also make sense? Like that feels like somewhere where we're going. I don't know if that happens on a screen. I don't know if that's voice. I don't know if it's like a whiteboard. But I do know that in human communication, when we have a laptop out between us, it's broken, man. Like just like the ability to like truly
Yeah.
connect with someone and mind meld and collaborate and make something better, not the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of actually like this is a link we didn't show. I don't know if you saw the Claude diagrams release.
I did, yeah.
Basically, yeah, being able to like visualize things. Gotta get some better example here. But yeah, it makes me think that maybe that's kind of what we need is this almost not necessarily live, like interstitial uh thing that you can point at and talk about. But it also, the meeting approach, which is like, hey guys, every meeting is a one pager. And like for the first 5 minutes of the meeting, everybody's just gonna like read the one pager because nobody
Yep.
does the reading. So you
Yep.
spend 5 minutes and then you have a better meeting because everybody's got the same context. Now, what I hear you saying is that you're in the meeting, and I totally feel this so resonates, is like, who's going to chat GPT this and why are we still talking? So
Yeah.
there's like, okay, cool. We know the prompt we need to put into the machine. And so like, what if it was like just revs of that? Like, cool, let's do the 5 minute pre-read. Let's talk for 10 minutes. Now let's just give it to ChatGPT and do the reading of what it generates in 30 seconds. And now let's talk again. Like, I wonder if it's like a cycle of that so that you continue with that shared context. Because it does feel like also meetings are like, let's wait to make decisions and let's make some decisions about what to explore next and then come back and make some decisions. But maybe that's like better handled in like a revs within a meeting rather than like, over weeks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, how many cycles can you get in? Like that's what it's all about, right? It's like decision cycles. You got to make a call on something, move forward, do something about it, and then make another call. And sometimes, this kind of connects to what I wanted to talk about next, and why I think some of the old work models of like you have a meeting and then you go away and do work and then you come back to the meeting.
Yeah.
It used to take a lot of time to get things done. Like, and
Yeah.
so many of those things just don't take any time anymore, right? Like they just get done right away. You can hide the screen too. We're not really talking about this anymore. And so this is cultural, right? Like it's not a technological change. This is just, we don't know how to do it as teams, like culturally as teams, we don't know how to do this yet. I'll start by prefacing that I think meetings are so hard. Like meetings are so hard to begin with, like to just even have a good meeting, let alone have a good meeting in the new way that nobody's ever had before is really challenging. Like I just fixed a meeting that we were sucking at for like 2 months, right? Maybe 3 months. We've had a structure and it just wasn't working. We changed the structure. Now it's all about, decision making. You have to like come up with 3 ideas for everything. And then we just make a call and then go for it. Most of the things that we're making a call on are longer term. It's not about like a work unit that you can essentially get back from ChatGPT right away. Although who knows, you can one shot a lot of stuff right now. Like the work units are getting bigger and bigger in terms of what you can get back. I think there's also just like cultural norms in terms of like, is it okay? Like you said, I love your suggestion of, could we just, when we get to a decision point, let's go use the machine that we all like to use. Let's read the output of the machine and then let's make our decision together. If we're not just going to outsource the decision in this case, right? As well. And then it's like, we're really, really quickly removing ourselves from the problem, or we're really quickly giving ourselves a different job. I don't know which one it is. Like, I don't know if we're just like slowly excavating ourselves from it. It's not like anybody's working like 10-hour weeks. And actually, this is something I heard too, kind of off track, but there's a cognitive shift as well with these things, where if you're essentially managing all these agents, it's so different than the way we used to work. Like most people aren't used to that, of like running a ton of different threads and the stress of having like all of these agents doing work and then you having to review it like at any point in time. Like that's a weird new thing, right? Like how does it make you feel?
Yeah, there's this good article by Matt, I forgot what his last name is, but he basically compared it to, do you know what bullet hell is? Do you know these like old, like not Space Invaders, but like flying space games where you're like dodging these things and you get power-ups and then you shoot these things? Basically, the world masters in these games, they stop looking at the plane and the bullets that are coming, and they actually kind of blur their vision to like understand at once all the kind of movements and dance around it. And so you kind of like get a different plane of perception that is not focusing on these individual pieces, but actually like, how do I fit into the path that is kind of revealing itself? And so like that blurring of vision is kind of what he's kind of proposing what we need. And we're constantly getting these bullets of like, do you want to prove this? Do you want to prove this? We're going to do this. Do you want to prove this? Are you sure? Do you want to always do this? And it's just like, you're ruining my ability to see the landscape. The other metaphor he used was like on a bullet train, you stop being able to see what's outside the window. Like it just becomes a blur.
Mhm.
And I think what's interesting there is you can see the distant landscape, right?
Right.
And so that level of perception has just like shifted up a level, but we're still getting all these pings from the low level decisions that we need to make. Anyway, it's a great article. I'll put it in the links as well. And it's just like, yeah, the way we're doing it is all wrong. And it's just causing all these issues with paralysis. Yeah, we're getting paralyzed.
Man, it just reminds me that like there's so many big ideas in there. But IT guys from the 70s were saying that, there's usually when they would go out to try to fix something, they would say it's a picnic problem. Problem in chair, not in computer, right? It's like the acronym for picnic. And it's like, dude, it's the people, right? Like AI is fine. It's doing real good. It's like, we're not doing so good yet. Like we're still working on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like maybe we should be putting AI in more chairs, the appropriate chairs, like the auto research thing. It's like, cool. Like actually, maybe I shouldn't be coming up with these experiment ideas. Like I need to come up with a problem. And like I can put somebody else in the chair of figuring out how to test it.
Yeah. And how much are we willing to give up? How soon? And then how are we going to figure out what to do next too? Like getting out of a routine, like a work routine, like one that you may have been in for years or decades, right? And trying to maybe just pull out a small slice of that and then do that all the time. It's going to be hard for people, man. It's like change is hard. They say change is stuff that other people make you do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just stuff that you want to do. Change is stuff
Mm-hmm.
other people make you do.
Well, I think part of it is like these tools are the way I think. Like after years and years, like I go into Figma to think. And now it's like maybe that output doesn't directly gel with the next stage. Like maybe the next stage is like, cool, I thought about it. Now I need to formulate the prompt to put in the machine. And that there's a similarity there with a sketchbook. Like I feel like sketches used to you literally sketched a higher fidelity sketch that would make it into the magazine or like into the drafting of the building. And now we kind of use sketches as a way to think, but that don't necessarily tie into the next input. And yeah, I just wonder like, how are we going to want to think about things? Because I can't really just sit there and think and come out with something that I want to execute on.
So, well, I don't know if it was Bill Buxton or like Buckminster Fuller. I don't know who said it. You can look it up. You go to the AI first on this one. Sketches are the conversations you have with your ideas, right? And it's having. So I think a sketch in the way that something comes out of your hand, like through a pencil. That's pretty hardwired. Like our hands are like really like there's a lot of neurons and stuff in there, and like things are happening. I don't think we really understand that process. Like there's kind of like a black box that just people change when they start writing or like with their hands or drawing with their hands. There's something that happens there. But then it's like any prototype, right? Like if you're doing like making something with clay or you're making something, with Claude, you can do a code sketch. Remember when processing came out and like code sketches were the big thing. And I think it was even like, didn't they call them sketch files or something? I can't remember exactly, but on that line, something I've noticed too in terms of like writing, it's so inefficient to write now, right? Like you just tell ChatGPT what you want or Claude, and then you get a really great output. And what sucks about that is you lose this thinking track and there's a great what you were just saying about how you can't just sit there and think about something. They said you can't think your way into writing, but you can write your way into thinking, right? Like the process itself takes you where you need to go. And when the answer is just kind of like handed to you, did you really figure anything out? And if that's still part of your job, like, are you doing your job or not? Right. And so there's this kind of like whole like AI shortcut thing that seems to happen where like we're making stuff, but it's like, is this even right? did we even figure anything out? Or like, there's like a ultra processed foods thing happening where all the nutrients are gone and we're like missing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because part of the output is that like there's been neuron firings in your brain that have made connections through like repetition. Like I think that's what
Yeah.
happens in writing. There's something happening in your brain, and like once you put the prompt in and you just take whatever it gets out, like that didn't happen in the same way, and so like yeah, the output is different, even though it looks the same or
Well,
better.
because you're doing the next word prediction, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Your brain needs to do the work. And when you don't do the work, it's like, I don't know if you get the gains in every context. And not to say that AI is not great for us. It's the best. Like, I love it. I'm still like, and there's something that is changing and we're losing. And it's like, okay, well, where will we get that nourishment moving
yeah,
forwards in this like bullet hell world that we're talking about? And I love the metaphor too of being on the bullet train and not being able to see what's close, but being able to see what's far away, and having to focus on that. That really speaks to me. Like if you look at my wife's Instagram, it's all tabletops and details. And if you look at mine, it's just landscapes. And so like in a world where we don't have to look at the details anymore, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. This works for me. I'm ready.
that's your world. Nice, nice. Yeah, it
Um,
makes me think, I guess like full circle for me is like the question that we started with was how do you want to work? Like, do you want to work at the whiteboard? Do you want to work at a desk? Do you want to work walking around? And I think what I realized in this conversation is all those contexts are cool. So I want to work in different contexts, but I actually want to work in a game. Like I actually want to work in a way that feels like I've got a party of people. We're working towards some progress. We have some goal and we're getting there. And so like, that's a different way of working than you would get if you just opened up a spreadsheet or you opened up a sketch file. Like there's social dynamics and framing of the goals and like progress and tools and an awareness of each other's abilities that you need to be able to play that game.
and that sounds awesome, right? Like totally agree. That would be the wildest interface if, I wish the gamification of everything like came true. Like I feel like we're not there. Like there is also like the Black Mirror, negative social world of that. Dude, actually, maybe it did happen. Maybe that's like social media and followers and like, maybe I missed it. The like making your life look like it's supposed to be one way to get the points. Okay, fair. But the idea of even like the short term stuff. Well, actually, short term. Yeah, social media is pretty short term, like likes and reposts as well. Basically, I agree. I love the idea of having your work feel more like a game or being able to like live in a game. And I don't know, man, maybe that's just more of a viewpoint than it is actual things that need to change in the world for you to be there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's totally a viewpoint. Yeah, yeah.
Let me share a couple things in terms of where I think, in terms of managing with people that can maybe help with managing the AIs, or just a couple of ideas. And let's talk about how these fit into, the AI world and if they translate or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is 10-80-10. Do you know this?
10-80-10. Bell curve? No, I don't know.
It is kind of like a thing. It's less of a curve, more of like a line. And imagine 10 at the beginning, 10 at the end. So essentially the leader defines 10% of the context, the constraints, the desired outcome, and says, okay, here's where we're going. The team then owns 80% of the execution, the iterations, the problem solving, and goes and does the work. Brings it back, leader, decision maker, responsible party. If you want to use racy, like, the R in the responsible, accountable, the accountable is the team. They do the 80%. The R, or the leader, reviews the final 10%. Maybe they're more of a master of a craft and they can give some suggestions on refinement. Maybe they know the context or did not communicate the context clearly in the beginning and say, okay, well, this actually needs to change based on something that I didn't get to in the first 10%. And then kind of approve it. And then that's a good way for leaders to think about, like, how am I not doing the work myself? I'm only defining the context, constraints, desired outcomes. And I'm only looking at refinement, alignment, and approval at the end. So this has been around for ages, like before AI. When you hear that, how do you connect that to AI workflow?
How do I connect that to AI workflow? I mean, I think that that's kind of what we're doing. If I think about the percentages, the amount of code generated, but
it's probably more like 198.1, the actual amount of human work in equivalent to the AI work.
Totally.
To me, it's like there's no other way to work with AI. Like you can't And in a way, there was never another way to work with people. It was just either you took over more of it or you were able to let go of less of it. And it's people who are good at delegating, people who aren't, people who are good at setting a direction and a vision, and people who aren't, how well they can use that piece. Okay, second one, the second management tool that I really like, Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. Shout out Toronto. One of the sort of like, Dan Sullivan wrote a book every quarter for like 20 years. Like, he's outrageously prolific and, huge ADHD guy. Somebody came to him and said, hey, like, you really don't like rules, do you? He's like, what are you talking about? My entire life is rules. All I do is try to come up with these tools to help keep me on track. And it tends to work for, other founders as well. So he has this thing called the impact filter, where basically you say, well, what is the purpose? What is the success criteria? And what are the constraints before we start on something? And you get everybody to know what done looks like, essentially. Like, this is why we're doing this in the first place. And it's shocking how many projects start without that. And just because I don't even know why. People just rush into things. And sometimes you know exactly why, but you don't communicate it to someone else. So they're kind of missing context, right? So they can't, so missing context means either they don't have what they need to do the work, or they don't understand why it's so important and potentially like why they need to do a good job on it, or like what even a good job in this context looks like. Maybe getting it done fast is a good job. Maybe getting it done perfect is a good job, right? Like, what does success look like? It's very different on different projects. So the idea of the impact filter, also called the extraordinary impact filter, is, I find, really good. Also, just for like a person to write before you start a project, just for yourself to like kind of clarify your thoughts. And you can actually have ChatGPT do one for you. Like, if you kind of just like, I don't know, use Whisperflow or whatever your voice to text app is, and you kind of like ramble about something, get it to ask you a couple questions, you can have a really strong impact filter in no time. That can help align a bunch of people. But then you can also just throw that straight into the project. And now the project has really clear rails in terms of like, this is where we're going. And it won't, track sideways as much.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever like conclude like we should just not do this thing?
Sometimes the importance of it definitely feels lessened. Like, maybe this isn't as important as initially thought, and kind of like moves down the priority list a little bit. Usually when I'm writing them, it's for something that I find is really important. So like the trigger of writing one is kind of only fired when I feel like I'm going to need, I really need buy-in from someone. And in those contexts, like, it's so important that I just want to make sure it doesn't get screwed up.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now I'm applying that to my own stuff. I'm like, oh, this is a good idea. I think sometimes I start stuff just to explore what I can do, which leaves a bunch of unfinished project folders everywhere. But yeah, that's good for things that you actually want to complete. Good idea.
And complete with others too, right?
With others, yes.
Did you hear that story about like when Bill Gates bought like a bunch of Leonardo da Vinci's old codexes?
No.
It's like, we're used to seeing his sketches, right? Like Vitruvian Man and, like the corpses where he was like understanding their anatomy and like inventing helicopters and shit. Apparently they're like 80% to-do lists and unfinished projects. I felt so seen when I heard that. I was like, man, Leonardo.
Yeah. Shots on goal, right?
Yeah. It is, man. And like, statistically, you're always going to start more projects than you finish, right? Like, even if you're stopping for good reasons, not bad reasons, or starting things you shouldn't have started in the first place. Okay. Pre and post-mortem. Now, this is the next one. So maybe you've done these, but I really like the question, and it's been helpful for me, again, more on like big projects of, okay, let's assume that we did this thing and it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? And then the same thing with the postmortem of, okay, we did this thing, what worked, what didn't work, analyze the outcomes after you finish something up, capture the lessons to be able to get, improvement loop on it, which is, I think, something we like often try to rush through of like, let's just go do something again rather than try to sharpen the sword a little bit after each cycle. It takes a lot of discipline to take the time, because usually the next project is like on top of you before you know, right? But to have that postmortem, I think, is also like really emotional for people. Sometimes people aren't happy with the way something went down, and you just get that like emotional release. They feel heard, and now you can kind of like move forward. I don't know how that applies to the AIs, but from in an AI context, especially like where everything's recorded, or like, like I've been doing this other podcast with founders on the first day that they start their business. So I took the first 8 episodes, I put them all into chat, and I was like, which of the questions are working well and which of the questions aren't working well? I'm never going to be able to listen to all of those, but like, which are the ones that, pulled out, emotional language or real stories, wherever, and which are the areas where it just felt like there was less juice. And it's like here, here, and here. I was like, actually, that aligns with like how I felt now that you say so. Okay, how can we change it? This was my initial intent. And then you get a cycle of improvement, right? So I feel like the postmortem is really useful when in AI world where there's so much content or so much work that you never really be able to look at it all critically, but the AI can do it for you. Just have that look back and see if it's going to work moving forward.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an element of like just on a project, you're working on like a podcast or like a little app thing, but also just like on a team. I think it's really important if you're going to work together again, especially. And I don't know that I don't know that we've thought about that in the context of the AI process that we use to get there as well. It's like, because we can do it on a personal level and then everybody does their own prompts and then comes back and like, oh, how do we do? But to have that like kind of thought about end to end is super interesting, especially in an age where like LMs don't really remember anything unless you're explicit about them. So to like be really careful about what you're learning from the postmortem and what you want from the premortem and like put that into a context file that everybody has. Just, I mean, the mechanics of it are interesting. Is how would you action that on a team?
Well, and to your point about like the context, that link that you sent me about the dudes talking about LLMs in general and how like the biggest joke is that, developers hate writing documentation. And now it's like, that's all we get to do. Like, that's kind of like AI gets to write all the code and have all the fun solving the problems. We just have to like document context on projects. And the idea of getting context to projects is still like I feel like that's the thing that's limiting a lot of the projects I'm working on right now. Is like, how do I just get more context into this? Like, it just needs to know a little bit more than it knows. And this is where I think that the always on AI assistant thing is going to be hot. There's going to be something really good about that. And then as soon as you start like meshing some of those together, like if we can, privacy respective way, loop in all the conversations my team members were having about a project, like a meeting, where I wasn't there and everything. There's a few products that I think are doing this really well. There's one called Stillin, and it's basically like a product / project manager who's just in all of your calls. And then you can ask them to go do stuff and they'll write code and commit it to Git. They'll just be an extra team member who remembers everything. And so for me, once we are able to have like everybody's Otter or everybody's like Zoom recording or everybody's granola, all linked up, you get so much context. And I think the boost we get at that point in time, it's got to be huge. Like it's got to be in terms of accuracy and intended outcome and quality of outcome. It just feels like the quality, like you'll be able to one-shot things like 10 times more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I just kind of like my mind goes to like people protecting their context. Like, are they going to be like, that kind of happens in organizations, right? People like kind of protect the things that they know. And I wonder if that'll be just more clear. Like it'll be more clear. Oh yeah, you totally didn't tell everybody that thing when you knew. I just wonder if there's like more transparency that comes with that through the postmortem and stuff. But yeah, being able to have shared context and kind of be like, what's up? Like, I just feel like I have to trawl through a million messages to get it. And the summaries, I just don't trust them right now. But if everybody looked at the same summary and was like, yep, that looks right, then that would just be a huge time saver. And then take that, put it into the prompt before I start working my piece of it. Yeah, that's cool.
And then everybody be working from the same thing, right? And like even basic stuff, like once you have all that context in one place, all of the like check-ins of, and look, there's so many tools that are trying to promise this right now, and so many agents that are like, I'd asked somebody this morning, I was like, hey, did you add these things to this agenda for this call later today? And, it should be in this thing. He's like, oh, I didn't even know that we were supposed to have an agenda in that document for this type of call. I was like, oh yeah, for this type of call, we always do that, right? And it's like, we just didn't know. And then also like, I wouldn't have even needed to ask him. We were like 3 mistakes made already by the time we got there. You know what I mean? In terms of extra work that just could have been taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. How do the defaults work? Like, how does it just work? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Have you seen this video of this, like, these TikToks that are like obstacle courses? Like they do the dominoes and then like hits the ball and goes into the pipe and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
toilet paper falls off. And
Those are
this
kind of
one,
like ASMR like vibes to
yeah,
them.
they're like delightful to watch. I saw one, it was like, modern programmer workflow. And it's that, except like at each stage, the guy's like grabbing the ball and just putting it in the next step and then like hits the things and he grabs the thing and puts it on the table and just like manually like bringing it through. So we'll have to,
It's
I
so
don't know,
true.
put that in links. That's the reality. Look how this works. It's so magical. But hold on. Gotta fix that. That's where we're at, man. That's where we're at with agents right now.
Okay, so I'll share one more thing, one more management tool that I think is just super useful. Also, like this is a good personal one. I also think it's just a good idea, like a good way to use AI. I notice that oftentimes, so it's called 131. And the idea is if you have like a team member who's kind of responsible for something and they bring you a problem, you say, oh, bring one problem, like bring a real problem. I don't want to hear a bunch of complaints about things. Just like bring one problem. Like what's the issue that you're dealing with here? And then you propose 3 viable solutions. Like, what could we do here? Like, just give me 3 things. They don't have to be great. Just like think through 3 and then recommend one. What's the one that you prefer? And it's such a simple way of like giving ownership and speeding up decision making that when you can do that and say like, okay, well, what's the problem? You come tell me about it. What are the 3 solutions? And then what is your one preferred option? Like half the time, like people won't even come to you with the problem because they already know what they're supposed to do about it. They just figured it out. Right. And so I think the same thing in using AI, what I've noticed is sometimes when you ask, Chat or Claude for something, it'll just rip. Like it'll go on these like really long like tirades of like, guys, I didn't need a novel on this topic. It's like you're giving me a lot of options. You're giving me way too many options. It's like just think about it for a while, summarize 3 viable solutions, and give me the one that you think is the best and tell me why. So 131 is an awesome tool, and I've been using it with AI, and it's been working out for me.
Nice. Yeah. And getting it to structure that stuff in a consumable way. Works for humans and agents alike.
It's about collaboration at the end of the day, right? Of, what's yours to work on, what's mine to work on, and how do we talk about it? That's collaboration. And how do we exchange ideas, context, all of this stuff? Yeah, it's same game, new players.
And let's just make sure it's fun, man. I just want it to be fun. It's gotta be a fun game. I want those power-ups, the particle explosions. Let's go.
All right, well, let's get some particle explosions here on the end of the video, like a little pew pew pew. And that was it. It was a good talk, man. I feel like I learned something. I don't know exactly what I learned, but my thinking changed as if we were, writing about it. Sometimes you can't think your way into podcasting, but you can podcast your way into thinking.
Oh, I love it. 1 week at a time. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next week, everyone.